The Atacama Desert, the driest place on Earth, where rain hasn't fallen in decades. Here, among endless sands and salt flats, a discovery in February 2024 shocked the entire world. An American spy satellite was doing a routine scan of the Chile-Bolivia border when an AI algorithm noticed a strange signal. After a powerful sandstorm had swept through the area 3 days earlier, a metal object had appeared from beneath dozens of feet of sand. Operator Jason Turner first thought it was debris from a crashed airplane. Such finds aren't unusual in this region, but when the image was zoomed in, CIA analysts turned pale. A submarine periscope could be clearly seen in the photo. "This can't be," whispered Analysis Division Chief Mark Stevens, a former Navy submarine officer. "The nearest ocean is 250 miles away." He quickly contacted the U.S. Navy Archives and received a reply an hour later that made his blood run cold. The periscope design matched submarines of the Permit class used in the 1960s. 72 hours later, an international expedition arrived at the site, led by Dr. David Mitchell, a top expert in naval archaeology, whose father had served on a submarine and died under unclear circumstances in 1969. The team included Jack Hansen, a former nuclear engineer from the U.S. Navy who helped respond to the K-19 submarine incident; Carla Ramos, a Chilean biologist who studies the behavior of Andean animals; Hiroshi Tanaka, a Japanese radiation safety expert who had worked in Fukushima; and a group of 12 other specialists from different fields. From the first minutes, the expedition faced strange things. All electronic devices within a 3-mile radius of the object worked erratically. Compasses spun wildly, as if they were in the middle of a magnetic storm. GPS showed coordinates in the center of the Pacific Ocean, and radiation detectors recorded mysterious bursts that appeared and disappeared without reason. A local guide, old man Juan Castillo, refused to come closer than half a mile to the site. "This is a cursed place. My grandfather told stories about the night an iron whale fell from the sky." But the strangest thing was the behavior of the local vicuñas, South American relatives of llamas. These shy animals, which usually avoid humans, gathered in large numbers around the excavation site, forming an almost perfect circle about 330 feet from the periscope. They showed no fear. Instead, they watched the researchers closely, turning their heads in unison, as if controlled by a shared mind. "In 20 years working in the Andes, I've never seen anything like this," wrote Carla Ramos in her notebook. "The vicuñas act like they're guarding the place, or waiting for something. The strangest part, there are no young animals among them, only adults over 5 years old." After a week of exhausting digging in 113 degrees Fahrenheit heat, the team cleared the top part of the hull. The metal was covered in strange spiral corrosion patterns, as if affected by an unknown type of energy. On the side of the sub, they read the markings clearly: USS Triton, SSN 601. David Mitchell's breath caught. This nuclear-powered submarine from the Permit class had been missing since March 15, 1968. Officially, it had sunk in the Atlantic during a secret mission to intercept a Soviet sub. No wreckage, no bodies of the 112 crew members were ever found. Entering the submarine through the torpedo hatch felt like stepping through time. In the first compartment, there was an eerie silence and a temperature around 59 degrees Fahrenheit. Surprisingly cool for a metal hull that had spent decades under the desert sun. In the control room, everything was preserved as if the crew had left just yesterday. On the navigation table were maps of the Atlantic Ocean with a plotted course. In the mess room, cups with dried coffee still stood on the tables. In the captain's cabin, the calendar showed the date, March 15, 1968. Next to it lay an open book, Moby Dick by Herman Melville, with a photo of a woman and a small boy tucked inside. But the most important answers were found in the captain's logbook, discovered in the control room safe along with a pack of secret documents marked Top Secret/Operation Sandstar. The first entries described a routine secret operation, searching for and retrieving a Soviet space capsule with experimental equipment that had fallen in international waters. On board was a special scientific consultant from the NSA, Dr. William Hoffman, a theoretical physicist who had worked on the Philadelphia experiment. Everything changed on March 14th. March 14th, 2340. We found the object at a depth of 980 feet. The water temperature is unusually high, 64 degrees Fahrenheit, instead of the usual 39 degrees Fahrenheit. The sonar shows strange glowing around the object. Dr. Hoffman is excited. He says it's the capsule with the Compass 7 prototype. While lifting it with the manipulator, we touch the body. Suddenly, some kind of device inside activated. A blinding blue flash lit up the water. All the instruments stopped working at the same time. The control room smelled like ozone. The next entry shocked the researchers. March 15th, 0715. Dear God, we are on the surface, but around us, desert. As far as the eye can see, sand and mountains. Outside temperature is 108 degrees Fahrenheit. The depth gauge shows minus 2,625 feet. We seem to be floating in the air. This is impossible, but GPS, when it briefly works, shows we are in South America. The crew is near panic. Sailor Jenkins says he saw a fish swim past the porthole. I'm afraid people are starting to hallucinate from shock. In the captain's log was an insert, a report from Dr. Hoffman. What I feared has happened. The Soviet Compass 7 is not a navigation device, but a generator of space-time anomalies. When activated, it created a local tear in the continuum, moving the submarine mass through warped space. The destination coordinates must have been random. We ended up in the worst possible place on Earth. The following entries turned into a record of a desperate fight for survival. The main problem was the S5W nuclear reactor. Without seawater, the cooling system had failed. The core temperature was rising dangerously fast, threatening a meltdown. March 17th, day 3. The reactor is overheating. The temperature sensors are maxed out. Chief Engineer Thompson and his team are working non-stop, trying to create an alternative cooling system using the ship's supply of fresh water. But it will only last for 5 more days. If we don't find a solution, there will be a thermal explosion that will turn hundreds of square miles into a radioactive desert. I've sent out 3 scout teams to search for any water source. March 18th, day 4. Something incredible happened. At dawn, the Sentry reported a herd of strange animals approaching. Around 30 creatures, like small llamas, surrounded the sub. They acted unusually, organized, like they were following a plan. The largest female walked up to the hull and began to scratch the sand insistently about 650 feet from us. First Officer Jackson suggested we check it. Under the sand, we found damp soil. March 20th, day 6. These animals are vicuñas, as Sailor Garcia explained. They're native to Chile. They keep helping us. This morning, the whole herd moved east, occasionally turning back as if inviting us to follow. I sent a team of 8. 4 hours later, radio operator Parker sent an unbelievable message. The vicuñas led them to a cave with an underground river. The water is ice cold, perfect for cooling the reactor. The whole crew is working to build an emergency pipeline. We're using ventilation pipe sections and gaskets from the torpedo systems. The blueprints and diagrams found on the old submarine amazed modern engineers with their cleverness. The sailors, more than 50 years ago, had created a cooling system using the natural height difference between the cave and the reactor. They laid almost 1,000 feet of pipes, welded together from materials they had on hand. March 25th, day 11. Unbelievable, but the vicuñas keep helping us. They're bringing some kind of white clay in their mouths. Mechanic Rodriguez tried using it to seal pipe joints. It works perfectly. How do these animals know what we need? Chief Kowalski, who grew up on a farm, says he's never seen animals behave like this. They are acting with intelligence and purpose. April 5th, day 22. We lost 3 crew members to heat stroke. The daytime temperature reaches 122 degrees Fahrenheit. The vicuñas showed us a few more caves where we can hide during the hottest hours. It's amazing. These caves form an entire system with natural ventilation. In one of them, we found ancient cave paintings. There are people and animals that look like vicuñas. There is also a strange symbol, a circle with spreading spirals. The same corrosion pattern is on our submarine's hull. April 12th, day 29. The cooling system is working steadily, but we cannot keep it going forever. The nuclear fuel was made for autonomous sailing, not for surviving in a desert. After a long meeting with the officers, I made a hard decision. We are starting the emergency shutdown procedure for the reactor. This means we will lose power, but at least we'll prevent a disaster. Sailor O'Neill, an Irishman, joked that we'll become the world's first submarine to run on sails. Laughter helps us stay alive. May 1st, day 47. The reactor is shut down. The operation took 18 days. In normal conditions, it would have taken 3, but we had to improvise every step of the way. Engineer Thompson showed real bravery. He got a serious radiation dose but finished the job. Now he's in the medical bay, and Dr. Wilson is fighting to save his life. The vicuñas brought some kind of herbs. Garcia says local people use them for radiation sickness. We have no other choice. The doctor made a herbal brew from it. In the medical log, a note was found. Thompson's condition stabilized after drinking the herbal brew. Blood tests show a drop in free radicals. These plants contain some kind of natural antioxidants. How did the vicuñas know exactly what we needed? This goes beyond normal animal behavior. May 25th, day 72. Only 37 out of 112 people are left. The others died from heat stroke, dehydration, radiation sickness, and accidents during scouting missions. Yesterday, we lost radio operator Parker. He fell into a crevice. The vicuñas tried to warn him, but he didn't understand their signals. Amazingly, these animals have developed a full warning system. Hoof stomping means danger underfoot. Sharp whistles mean a sandstorm is coming. Circular head movements mean poisonous snakes nearby. The final log entry is dated June 15th, 1968. We are out of strength. It's the 3rd day without water. The underground spring has dried up. The vicuñas left yesterday at dawn. The whole herd gathered by the submarine's hull. They stood in a semicircle with their heads lowered. Then the oldest female, we called her the Queen, walked up to me and pressed her face against my hand. In her large brown eyes, I saw something like a goodbye and a promise. It was like she said, "We did all we could. We won't forget you. We will guard this place." Dr. Hoffman died last night. Before death, he was rambling, repeating, "They knew. The vicuñas knew. This wasn't an accident. We were meant to be here." Maybe he was right. Maybe there is a higher purpose in all this. I leave this journal in the hope that one day we will be found. If you're reading these words, know this: we did not give up. We fought until the end, and we were not alone. Tell our families we thought about them every day. P.S. If you ever meet vicuñas, bow to them from us. They are more than animals. They are guardians. Commander Robert Anderson. The modern expedition studied the submarine for 3 weeks. In different compartments, they found personal items of the crew, photos of loved ones, unfinished letters, homemade chess pieces made from tin cans. In the cabin of the young sailor, they found a teddy bear and a letter. "Dear Mom, please don't cry. The vicuñas say I will become a star. I don't know how, but I believe them." In a secret compartment, they discovered the Soviet capsule, the cause of the whole disaster. The Compass 7 device was a sphere about 3 feet in diameter, covered in complex mathematical formulas. Nearby were burnt documents in Russian and a final note from Dr. Hoffman. "I knew what I was doing. The CIA was warned about the nature of this device. Soviet physicists were decades ahead of us in understanding quantum space-time. Compass 7 is not a weapon. It's a key to travel between dimensions. But we weren't ready. Now 112 people will pay the price for politicians' ambitions. If you found us, do not repeat our mistakes. The universe is more complicated than we think, and wiser." Inside the reactor compartment, besides the genius cooling system, the team found something completely unexplainable. On the bulkhead, complex mathematical formulas and diagrams were scratched in, describing how particles behave in space-time anomalies. When Dr. Tanaka saw them, he was stunned. These are string theory equations, but they were only developed in the 1990s. How could simple sailors know about things like this? A possible answer was found in the mechanics logbook. "Something strange happened today. I was working in the reactor room, trying to improve the flow of the coolant. Suddenly, formulas appeared in my mind. Formulas I've never learned. It was like someone was dictating them to me. I wrote them on the bulkhead so I wouldn't forget." Thompson says he also has these flashes of insight. Maybe it's the radiation, or maybe this place is special. The most dangerous part was disabling the reactor. Even though it had been shut down 56 years ago, the sensors still showed residual radiation and mysterious energy pulses every 47 minutes, as if the reactor was pulsing in its own rhythm. On the 7th day of the operation, the thing that local legends had warned about for decades happened. When the engineers opened the reactor's shielding, all electronic devices in the camp failed at once. A strange glow appeared in the sky, like the northern lights, but with perfect geometry, concentric circles spreading out from the submarine. The old cooling pipes began to leak, and radiation levels suddenly spiked. Then something incredible happened. The vicuñas appeared out of nowhere, a whole herd, about 50 animals, including some very old ones with gray fur. They started crying loudly and gathered in a tight group, stomping their hooves in a steady rhythm. "They're warning us!" shouted Carla Ramos. Less than 20 minutes later, a massive sandstorm began, one of those that happens only once every 10 years. But the vicuñas were already leading the people to shelter. They guided the expedition to the same cave system where the crew once took refuge. In the main cave, the researchers made a shocking discovery. Alongside ancient petroglyphs on the walls, there were modern diagrams, the layout of a submarine reactor, nuclear decay formulas, even the periodic table of elements. All of it was drawn with natural pigments, but with incredible accuracy. Carla Ramos studied the drawings closely. The style is ancient. The technique matches the Chinchorro culture, at least 3,000 years old. But the content, it's like ancient people knew about nuclear physics, or someone gave them this knowledge. When the storm passed 6 hours later, they found that the sand had covered the leaking area, creating a natural sarcophagus around the damaged section. Even more surprising, tests showed that the sand had an unusually high level of boron, a natural neutron absorber. Radiation levels dropped to nearly safe values. "This can't be a coincidence," said Dr. Tanaka at an emergency meeting. "The vicuñas led us to the exact cave where the storm picked up the exact type of sand needed to stop the leak. The odds of that happening by chance, 1 in a billion." On the final day of work, when the nuclear fuel was removed and placed in protective containers, one last amazing thing happened. The oldest vicuña from the herd, strikingly similar to the one called the Queen in the journal, walked up to the reactor hatch. A young male with a spiral-shaped mark on his forehead followed her. The old vicuña stood still for a few minutes, then touched the submarine's hull with her nose and let out a long cry, echoed by the whole herd. Then she gently pushed the young male forward, as if passing on a legacy. He walked up to David Mitchell and pressed his face against Mitchell's outstretched hand, just as Captain Anderson had described in his final letter. In that moment, Mitchell would later write in his report, "I realized we had witnessed something greater than just a rescue mission. We had touched a mystery that connects past and present, humans and nature, science, and what lies beyond it." During the final check of the reactor, they found a metal plate attached to the bulkhead. Scratched into it were the words, "Thank you, guardians of the desert. You gave us more than water and food. You gave us hope. You showed us we are not alone in the universe." Senior Engineer Lieutenant Michael Thompson, May 14, 1968. Next to the plate, they found a small bundle wrapped in rubberized fabric. Inside was a tuft of silvery vicuña fur and a note. "This is from the Queen. She said, and yes, I believe she truly spoke to me, that someday other people will come here, and when they do, her descendants will recognize them by this sign. Protect them, they are more than they seem." The analysis of the recovered materials finally revealed the truth behind the disappearance of the USS Triton. The Soviet device known as Compass 7 turned out to be a prototype of a machine that could create controlled space-time anomalies. But the most shocking discovery came from the documents of Dr. Hoffman. In his personal safe, the team found a folder marked Umbra/Keystone, the highest level of secrecy in the United States. The documents revealed a joint American-Soviet program with the code name Einstein-Rosen Bridge, which had started back in 1961. Scientists from both superpowers had secretly worked together in quantum physics, hiding it carefully from their own governments. The Cold War is just a cover, Hoffman wrote in his diary. The real game is being played on a different level. We found a way to bend space-time, but we can't control where we end up. Our Soviet colleagues warned us. The device is unstable, but the military on both sides want results. I fear we are opening Pandora's box. The final entry in Hoffman's diary, written already in the desert, was shockingly accurate. Now I understand. This isn't an accident. We were brought here. The Vicuñas, they are part of something greater. The ancients knew about places of power, where the boundaries between worlds are thin. We, in our pride, thought we invented something new, but we only rediscovered what was known thousands of years ago. The Quechua people call the Vicuñas messengers of the gods. Now I know why. The investigation revealed that the US government had known about the possible location of the submarine as far back as the 1970s. Satellite images had shown an anomaly in the Atacama Desert, but the search operation was canceled. In declassified CIA documents, a resolution from the director at the time was found. Too risky. If the Russians find out we recovered their tech, it could trigger a war. Let the Sands keep this secret. But the most surprising discovery came from analyzing the DNA of the vicuña fur kept by the crew. Geneticists found strange markers not typical for the species. Even more, some parts of the genome had sequences that modern science cannot decode. It looks like a code, explained Dr. Elena Voronova, the lead geneticist on the project. It's as if someone used DNA to store information. We see clear mathematical patterns, repeating sequences. This can't be the result of natural evolution. Today, the USS Triton has been declared an international memorial. The reactor has been fully neutralized, and the radiation threat has been eliminated. With support from the US and Russia, the documents confirming their cooperation have been officially declassified. The Chilean government created a national park around the submarine, covering an area of approximately 19 square miles. At the center of the park stands a monument, a bronze sculpture of a vicuña standing on the submarine's bow. At the base are engraved the names of all 112 crew members and the words, "They didn't return home, but they weren't alone." Every year on March 15th, the day the submarine appeared in the desert, the vicuñas return. Hundreds of them gather around the memorial, forming the same perfect circle they did 56 years ago. They stand in complete silence for exactly 47 minutes, the number of days the crew survived thanks to their help. Then the oldest female walks to the monument, touches it with her nose, and lets out a long cry. After that, the herd slowly disperses, only to return again the following year. Locals call this day Dia de los Guardianes, the Day of the Guardians. Old Carlos Mamani, now 92, comes to the memorial every time. My grandfather was right. He said the iron whale didn't fall from the sky for no reason. The mountain spirits chose the vicuñas to help people from another world. Since then, these animals have been sacred guardians. They remember, and they teach us to remember too. The scientific community still cannot explain many parts of this story. An international center for the study of the vicuña phenomenon has confirmed that the descendants of that herd show unusually high intelligence and the ability to pass knowledge to new generations. The Compass 7 device was destroyed after more than a year of study, with the technology considered too dangerous. However, the equations that were decoded laid the foundation for a new multiverse theory. In the Submarine's museum, there is a notebook that belonged to Seaman Baker with one final message. Mom always said guardian angels were real. She just didn't know they had 4 hooves and brown eyes. Every evening in the desert, at sunset, the shadows of the rocks form a giant spiral with the submarine at the center. Locals call this natural event the Path of Spirits. And the young leader of the vicuña herd, with the spiral mark on his forehead, continues to patrol the memorial's perimeter, allowing people to touch a piece of ancient wisdom. In his final report, expedition leader David Mitchell wrote, "We came looking for a submarine, but we found a bridge between worlds. A bridge built not from steel and technology, but from compassion and cooperation.